Welcome in, everybody. It's time for a new episode of StreetWise. I'm Devin O'Day, along with Kim Van Atta from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, and we're going to be talking about Halloween. And it can be a wonderful time.
It should be a wonderful time.
But it's also one of the most dangerous times of the year for pedestrians and children. I read they're 47% more likely to be hit on Halloween than any other time.
I think probably they're worried about their treats and they're looking down in their bags and what do I have and where can I go next? So they're running to the next house, and there are so many more of them out there. And then this year, actually, Halloween's not even on a weekend. So we're dealing with people coming home from work and probably not paying attention. So yes, I can see that.
It's a Tuesday night this year. And if you are in a neighborhood, you're going to have to really watch it, because especially between, and what are the hours that we're really talking about where it's really the most active? Because they start early.
They do start early, but I mean, it's almost winter, so the days are getting shorter. It's getting dark earlier. And then the dusk, where it's halfway between dark and light, that's a problem too, because you can see some, but maybe not as well as you could see. And again, like I said, these kids, if they don't have supervision, they're going to be running to the next house. They're not worried about the roads. They're worried about their candy.
You know, I always think about it. Now, when we were kids, of course, we went out without supervision and we just played, and everything it was a different world then. I can't even imagine kids not being supervised now for anything, but they are.
Unfortunately, parents will let their children out to go, and because it's in a neighborhood or their neighborhood, they don't see a problem with it. But those cars and the speed that the cars drive right now really cause issues.
Mm-hmm. It's not a normal night. And if you now this is also for people who don't have children, or maybe you're an empty nester, so you haven't thought about kids running around in a long time. You're coming home from work, it's a Tuesday night, you're tired, you've worked all day, you just want to get home, have some dinner, and be done with it. But you have to be slower than even what the speed limit is in a neighborhood on Halloween night.
Right, and we need to be cognizant of that anyway, but these kids are out, they're excited, they're happy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't control the energy, probably hopped up on a little sugar since it's Halloween, and they're running back and forth and back and forth. Their costumes may not fit properly, they may not be able to see out those, and they may be dark. If they're dark, you're not going to see them anyway, and these are children. We can't blame the children for being excited. That's what we're responsible for.
It's exactly right. And I thought this was astounding. 11% more fatal crashes than on weekend Halloweens. When you have a Tuesday or a weekday Halloween, 11% more crashes. Why is that?
I really do think it's because Halloween, weekends, they expect you to be out. So they're paying more attention. Mm-hmm. But if it's Halloween, like I said before, and you're talking work time and you're coming home from work, and everybody's like that. I just want to get home. I've been at work all day. I want to be home, and they don't want to pay attention. And that's a problem.
You know, there's something that I think is, I got to tell you, if you hit anyone, you're going to be feeling it for the rest of your life. But the children, is it 3 times more likely to be hit than an adult on a Halloween at night. If you hit a child, that's going to change your life forever. I mean, it really will. I mean, you think about people who go through neighborhoods and children and those things that happen like that. That's something you don't get over. Not
ever. And we talked about the kids. They're not tall enough where you can see over the hood of the car, so they may be. And again, if they're unsupervised, you're not going to see them or the person with them. But it's hard to see children. So we really need to pay attention to that.
Most pedestrian fatalities on Halloween take place between 5 and 9 p.m. The riskiest hour, now take note of this, is between 6 and 7. It's dark enough to where kids feel like it's the spooky Halloween. They're running there between 6 and 7. That's your magic hour to be very, very cognizant that those kids are going to be out there. But when you have a bunch of cars that are parked on the street, there are not usually crosswalks in little neighborhoods. They just don't have those.
Right.
So if you are a parent and you're with your kids, how is the safest way for them to navigate crossing a street and getting around their neighborhood?
That's very difficult to do. We have that problem in parking lots as well because people are entering and exiting their parking spaces. But again, no crosswalks, and they're going to go back and forth across the street. And that's, I will tell you what my grandson tells me, and he's 5. He said, you have to stop, and you have to look left, and you have to look right, and then you have to look straight across, and then you have to do it all over again. So I have it ingrained into his mind, but you can't just look left and look right and then, okay, I got it, and just take off. The whole time you're crossing the street, you need to be paying attention because cars come out of nowhere.
Well, Kim, there are a lot of great tips for anyone when it comes to walking safely and driving safely in the state of Tennessee. And it is the Tennessee Highway Safety Office website. So what is that?
It is tntrafficsafety.org.
tntrafficsafety.org. You guys check that out, and we'll be right back.
He shoots, and he scores!
Kim Van Atta is with me, and okay, there are a lot of jokes that can come up with driving and being inebriated on Halloween. We're calling, what was the one in your office that came up? It's not the official word, but it is on Halloween. It's booze it or lose it. It's funny when we laugh about it now because we're not doing that.
Exactly.
But it's a very serious matter. Let's talk a little bit about the fatalities with drunk driving on Halloween night. That's so horrific because there are kids out. Then you add alcohol on top of that, of the adults that are partying for Halloween. Young drivers ages 21 to 34 they account for the most fatalities with drunk driving on Halloween night. How do we get the word out to people who are in that age group to say, you think that we would get that by now, right?
We've been trying, and it's, I mean, you talked about the age group, it's males. So the target demographic is males of that age. So we're getting the message out the best we can, every way we can, but it doesn't seem like they're paying attention.
You had a really, really poignant commercial that really got me. It was last year around this time. And there was a gentleman, he says, I wasn't drunk, I was just a little buzzed. I wasn't drunk. Okay, let's talk about that phrase, a little buzzed.
That they think, they being the people that are drinking, that 1 drink or even 2 drinks. Actually, it has been shown that when a police officer pulls over a person and asks if they've been drinking, the standard answer is, I've had 2 beers. It's always 2. But what you don't understand is it should be 0 beers. Any drink of alcohol is going to affect you. It affects different people different ways, but it's going to affect how you think, how you react. Your reaction time won't be what it should be. And it's just, we have so many options now. Designated driver, before you even go out, find someone who will drive and that won't drink. We have rideshare, we have taxis, we have so many options where you don't have to drink and drive. I mean, I'm not for prohibition. If you want to drink, that's fine. Just don't endanger your life, especially other people's lives.
It really is as simple as that. And if you have there are a lot of friends that I have that have adult children that live at home now. That's just the case. It's our world right now. Right. During COVID, a lot of people made some living arrangement changes. So you've got these adult children. Don't be afraid to tell them, call me.
Right.
Call me. And if you're underage, if you're whatever, that one night of being buzz driving, inebriated, just impaired driving, that particular thing is, you can't erase that from your memory bank, ever.
No, and that's the thing. We need to be comfortable with our parents and our children for them to not be scared to call me and say, okay, I've been drinking. Because at this point, I don't want to tell my parents. Well, if you don't tell your parents, you may not ever talk to your parents again. So as a parent, please call me. I know you may not have been supposed to be drinking, but it's more important to me. Your life is more important to me than you drinking.
And let your kid know that. Let your child know that, or your grandchild, or maybe you're the fun uncle or the fun aunt. If you're an adult, be willing to say, I'm going to be your driver. I'm going to be your person. You call me and I'll come get you no matter where you are. And it can change your life. It can change another family's life. You know, drunk driving is just, there's no excuse for it anymore. And it's just so easy to happen. I didn't realize that the legal driving limit it is so low that one drink will cause an issue.
Right. I mean, 0.08 is what that level is. But especially if you don't drink very much, that you're going to get to that 0.08 more quickly than you think. That's why I say 0 drinks before you get behind the wheel.
Really important. Now let's talk about distracted driving, because you told me something that it bears repeating. The length of time when you look down to do a text or something, how long is that distance? It was like the length of a football field.
Right. You're driving the length of a football field and the time it takes to read or send a message. And that is a long time to keep your eyes off of the road.
You're in a neighborhood. Someone says, hey, the party is at 9. You look just for a second. But that's the second that little kid walks out dressed like a football player with his little bobblehead helmet on. He doesn't see you because of the bobblehead helmet. And you don't see him because you were looking at a text.
Right.
That's so important to know that can happen that quickly.
I just wish more people would understand it. It's hard to drive that point home, no pun intended. But we need to make sure that people understand it can happen just like that. And speed is a huge contributing factor. And then we have the people that we're should be watching for on the street. And it's not just the phones. I mean, we have the phones, that's distracted, but even traffic signals can be distracted. Billboards can be distractions. Anything can be distraction.
Do you know what really got me too? And because I was talking to someone in Mount Juliet, it was a law enforcement officer who said, you know that eating is also a big distraction. And I think about the time during Halloween when it's between 5 and 9. Of course, that's when people will drive through. They're going to grab a bite before they go back out to go to a party or something. They've just gotten a little something. They reach down to get a French fry. Something simple. That's also a distraction that you don't see that in the statistics, but that's a distraction.
Absolutely. The other thing, when you have children in the back seat.
Ooh, that's an important distraction. Yeah.
Because they are not still. And they're talking, and if they're like my grandchildren, arguing, and then so you're kind of reaching back behind you going, you need to stop doing that. Well, I'm reaching back behind me. I should be looking here. And then you take care of that business when you get home.
Wow. Didn't even think about that. And then those people, I always say, grandma and grandpa are driving. You don't have children in your car that often. You might not be used to them being back there and acting like kids. You know, they spill a drink or something happens in the back seat and you reach behind and you're trying to drive and take care of business at the same time. You don't even have the tools it takes a parent because they're kind of used to that stuff happening, kind of let it go. You're trying to save the day and you can hurt someone.
And then as we get older, our reflexes do get slower. So you need to pay attention. Another thing that's very, very hard, and I've gone through it recently, you get to a certain age, you shouldn't be driving anymore. In Tennessee, we have no laws that say you have to have a driver's test. Once you get a license at age 16, you keep it forever.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because that is a conversation that you never want to have with an elderly parent. You never want to say, Mom, Dad, give me your keys. Whether it's early onset Alzheimer's, whether it's dementia, or whether it's just, I can't drive anymore. I don't have the mobility to turn and look and see. I don't have the ability to do that.
It is a very, very difficult discussion to have. Very difficult.
Well, we have got a lot of things that we need to talk to parents about because when you're dressing your kid for Halloween, they might have a favorite costume. But if this costume is all black, you want to be a ninja. Oh, that's really cool because that's easy. But ninjas are hard to see. That's the whole point of being a ninja.
Yeah, that's true.
You kind of, but they're not really ninjas. So how do we approach Halloween and Halloween costumes? If you're a parent.
If they have to wear that ninja, that's fine. But put some kind of reflective tape, or you can have reflective clothing, I actually have some reflective things on my keychains so they can see that. But again, I will say that everybody I know has a cell phone, and everybody I know carries their cell phone. It's attached to their bodies. There's a flashlight on the cell phone. All you have to do is turn that flashlight on when you're walking, and everybody can see you with that flashlight.
And carrying flashlights. Those are another thing. It's just carrying the ones. They've got wonderful, you can hang them on a wrist. Carrying a flashlight always works really, really well. And get any kind of reflective tape and put it up high where they see it. A lot of times I'll see it on their shoes because they've got reflective stuff on shoes, but that's not high enough. Sometimes you need something a little higher. If they've got something on their head, they've got a helmet or something like that, reflective tape, and it doesn't really mess up the costume, but it really will be good to make them as visual to a driver as possible. A lot of the things that we don't think about are the kids that aren't very mobile. And by that I mean they're cute when they're toddlers. They have the cute little outfits. They get tired part of the way and then they decide they're going to run or whatever. They're hard to hold on to.
Right.
Wagons or some kind of mobile device for your kids for when they get tired, or if you have trouble keeping a hold of them, find some way to restrain them in some way. Because when they're that tiny, cars can't see them. And so if you have a wagon, I've watched wagons, and now they've got these wagons. They look like, I've seen them at the Nashville Zoo, when the kids, they look like these wonderful little devices that you can put in. They've got little seats, they've got everything. These kids are like, yeah, they're rocking in the free world. It's wonderful. But those are really helpful for when that kid gets a little tired and they just start running off. I've even seen those wonderful ones where the kids wouldn't stay close and it's not a leash, but it is a leash.
Looks like a leash.
Looks like a leash.
And people are against those because they do look like leashes. And I'm thinking, if I can keep my child near me with that, I'm not calling it a leash. I'm keeping them safe.
This is a lifeline, baby.
Exactly.
This is a lifeline.
That's a better term.
You know, and I've watched a lot of people be very critical of those. But I'm telling you, those will save a life if you've got that kid that's faster than you are.
It's sad that we're caring more about our pets than we are our kids in those instances.
Well, I think about that. I mean, that is the truth. I mean, dogs have reflective collars on all the time. They're always on a leash and everything, but kids can just run out in front, and that is a sad state of affairs.
It really is.
Well, we've covered a little bit about the distractions, and we've covered about drunk driving, but the importance of the statistics to know that kids, this is the most dangerous time of the year, probably more because they're not out at Christmas time.
Right. This is the time they go out. They go to everybody's houses. Their bags are getting heavier and heavier because more candy is getting in there. And every house they get, oh, what did I get this time? They want to start going through their things. And then you can't see. I mean, you're not paying attention.
That's another really important thing. Don't start eating candy before you get home, because it hypes them out, first of all. It's like some sugar, but you can't see, and they're more focused on that bag. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it. It's distracted walking at that point.
That's right, exactly. Well, more distraction.
We're going to come back, but not drinking and driving, not being distracted, and wearing bright clothing. There are things that you can do to make this a very safe Halloween and find safe places to go. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we come back. But don't forget, there is a website with a lot of great tips, and I've found some really cool things, but I've also found some really scary statistics. TennesseeHighwaySafety.org.
TNTrafficSafety.org.
TNTrafficSafety.org. See, by the end of this show, we're going to all know this website just a little bit better. Stay with us.
He shoots, and he scores!
We're back. It's Halloween. I know we got our outfits on. We're ready to party. What is your favorite thing to have for Halloween? Did you ever have a favorite candy that you looked for in the pumpkin?
I do, and I try so hard not to eat it because once you get a little older, the pounds go on very quickly. But candy corn is my absolute favorite candy.
See, you're the candy corn person. Oh my gosh. Yeah, candy corn. It's only this time of year too. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I went to a church lady get together and they had candy corn mixed with salted peanuts on the, don't. You know,
sugar.
It was a Reese's cup for me. I always wanted the Reese's cup, and you always knew the houses that had the Reese's cups, But when your kids are out, we want them to have a really good time this Halloween, and there are some tips that you've put together to help pedestrians of all kinds. Now, your kids may not know how to cross the street. Your kids may not know, but they learn and they do what you do. They don't always do what you say.
That's right.
So you teach them, just like you've ingrained with the little ones, how to cross a street. Look right, look left, look straight ahead, and pay attention at all times until you get across the street.
That's right. That's what you have to do. But again, I have mine ingrained just because every single day they hear it from me. But we have to practice what we preach as adults so they know, just like he does. And he sees me looking right, left. And part of what my daughter said, the reason is his arms got really sore because I was in downtown Nashville, and when I crossed, I was just gripping him as hard as I could grip, and he's going, Kimmy, you're hurting me. I said, I'm trying to keep from hurting you, but I don't want anybody else to hurt you either. So,
so the kids in traction.
Exactly. So you broke their arm. So yes, they're going to remember it.
Well, this is important, and we haven't talked about this. We've talked a lot about neighborhoods. But downtown Nashville, if you're driving or you're a pedestrian, let's talk about Halloween night in Nashville. It's going to be cray-cray. It's a Tuesday night, but there is no weeknight in downtown Nashville. No. You know all about this. You're a downtown resident. So let's talk about how to be a pedestrian at Halloween down there.
You have to be very careful anyway, but on a holiday. And then you still have Broad Street with all the honky tonks. So they're still open and they're still serving alcohol, and you're going in there. And then you have children walking around the streets along with the adults. The crosswalks are so important that night for sure, because there are every traffic light is a crosswalk, every single one. We have to make sure that motorists understand they have to yield to pedestrians everywhere. And it doesn't matter what the light says, whether it's red or green. You have to yield to a pedestrian because that pedestrian's life's in danger. The motorist will live. Pedestrian, probably, maybe not, depending on speed. So really have to use those crosswalks. And again, like we talked before, reflective gear, flashlights, phone lights, anything you can do to stay reflective is what you need to be as a
Being
pedestrian.
seen is the first part of safety.
Right.
Then following the lights, because those lights down there in the crosswalks, following the pedestrian sign, when it says don't walk, don't walk.
It's pretty simple if you just follow the directions.
It is, but there's so many people, and when they're the big throngs down there, driving is really going to be a problem. So I would suggest if it's Halloween night, that you're in your downtown, use rideshare.
Park the car, you're right. Use rideshare or just be a pedestrian. Nashville is pretty enclosed, so if you're going to be down there, you can walk to these places. I don't even want to bring this up, but I will. The scooters are all over the place now in downtown Nashville. I couldn't get on one sober, but people ride them a lot. So riding one sober, that's fine. But then they go to the honky tonks and they want to come back and they're getting on them inebriated. And a scooter is considered a pedestrian. So that's another difficult thing. And they ride on the sidewalks, they ride on the streets, so we have to pay attention. Not only a pedestrian, a true walking pedestrian has to pay attention to the scooter, but the motorist also has to pay attention to the scooter.
Can they ride a scooter on a sidewalk?
They're not supposed to, but they do.
Okay. So have you had cases, you hear all the stories, have you heard cases of people being injured walking, being hit by a scooter?
Haven't heard any of those, but there have been 2 fatalities with scooters on the street and cars having hit them, and both of those were impaired. So, I mean, the statistics, I don't want to go by statistics because it's a person that's not going to be with you for Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, but you have to think before you get on a scooter, before you go out and walk, before you drive, that you need to pay attention.
Let's talk briefly about if you're going to be a driver down there. Are there going to be any road closures? Do you know if they're going to have anything closed down there? Is it going to all be just the free-for-all open around Broadway?
It's usually a free-for-all. I think they are trying to close Broad in some situations, but the businesses down there like to keep Broad open. So it is difficult. It's difficult to get across Broad anyway, even if there weren't traffic, because they don't even have the straight crosswalks anymore. They're the X's where you can walk in any direction on the crosswalk. And there are so many people down there.
Those are so confusing. I don't even know how to handle those down there. So where can people get a little bit more information about maybe how to avoid the really high traffic areas? If you're going to be walking and it is Halloween, it's during the middle of the week, we want to keep you safe. So are there any places that you can see where there's going to be the high traffic areas that they can avoid?
Actually, our website, tntrafficsafety.org, has a link where you can go and see the data where like you said, the high traffic areas and the places you need to stay away from. We try to put everything in a nice, neat little package on that website so you can find out everything you need to know. But you need to use the website and you need to use the tips.
They really are good tips, and it's really easy to find. You told me, and I thought this was, I couldn't believe it, the number of people that have been killed in or hurt in pedestrian crashes. It was unbelievable in the state of Tennessee.
The amount of crashes in Tennessee, and this is a sad situation, we get funding from the federal government based upon the fatalities. We've never qualified for pedestrian funding because we didn't have enough fatals. We now qualify. So that is something you never want to qualify for funding because you have too many fatalities. Memphis is in the top 5 cities in America for pedestrian fatalities. Nashville's up in the top 10 because Nashville's gotten worse. But all of their big urban areas, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville, Memphis, are really high in pedestrian fatalities.
And all it begins with is just paying attention. And whether it is Halloween, whether it's Christmas, whether it's a wedding party and you're just down there, we want to encourage you to pay attention and to get there safely and drive alive.
That's right.
Well, thank you for your time today, Kim. These are very important things. And I know that people are going to watch this show and they're going to think, hey, I'm going to tell my kid. I'm going to save my kid. I'm going to let them know that it's okay to call if it's late at night and they might have been drinking. Even if they weren't supposed to, they're going to call and they're going to get home safely.
That's all we want is for everybody to get home safely.
Thanks for all you do in the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, too.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be a media platform and to come and share our message. That's what we hope, that it's going to make a difference for someone.
And it will. And it will. And don't forget, buckle up.
Well, you didn't say booze it and lose it.
That's right. Buckle up, booze it and lose it. It's the Halloween show. Thanks for watching, everybody.